I'm sure by now that many of you have heard about Disney's spending cuts, and of course, a lot of people were sitting here wondering, didn't you do a video on this last week? Yeah, I did, but come to find out that this little conversation that Bob Iger had the other day on CNBC was actually a lot worse than people originally thought.
Well, I think it's very disturbing to me. We've talked about disruptive forces on this business and all the challenges that we're facing and the recovery from COVID, which is ongoing. It's not completely back. This is the worst time in the world to add to that disruption. I understand any labor organization's desire to work on the behalf of its members to get the most compensation, to be compensated fairly based on the value that they deliver. We managed as an industry to negotiate a very good deal with the Directors Guild that reflects the value that the directors contribute to this great business. We wanted to do the same thing with the writers, and we'd like to do the same thing with the actors. There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic. And they are adding to a set of challenges that this business is already facing that is, quite frankly, very disruptive.
So they're not being
and
realistic?
dangerous. No, they're not.
Why not?
I can't answer that question. I respect their right and their desire to get as much as they possibly can in compensation for their people. I completely respect that. I've been around long enough to understand that dynamic and to appreciate it. But you also have to be realistic about it.
Granted, that right there was just a little snippet. Now, before I start this video, I want to go ahead and kind of explain the last day real quick. It's not going to be that long. I took a couple of days in what has basically been a very, very slow news cycle. And as I have told you guys before, I'm trying to lean more into video essays, and I'll probably even do an essay on this topic at the end of the summer because I want to see what the overall returns are on overall money lost. And I was going to explain how it was that Disney died. But now that you see what's going on with the spending cuts, I think that this little problem deserves a little bit more nuance. So what do we do here on YouTube most of the time? We kind of react to things. Like, for example, we kind of react to the here and now, but oftentimes we miss the overall nuance, which is something that I wanted to start exploring much, much deeper, especially when it comes to Disney. Now, it's not just Disney, it's Hollywood itself. It's always been red, meaning that it's always had a communistic force within Hollywood itself. But even though wokeness is definitely at the heart of a lot of Disney's problems today, it didn't really start with that. Let's go back in time. Disney had a bankruptcy scare, I think, back in the early 90s, and eventually they got more creative as a company. Eventually Pixar would show up. They would do such films as Toy Story and multiple other films that I personally think aided in Disney's recovery. And now that you've got people not going to the theme parks, and I'm pretty sure you guys know the reason why, the overall ticket sales are down. And, of course, when people have got less money in their pocket, they're more than likely not going to go to the movie theater or anything like that, even though last night I went to go see Sound of Freedom and the movie theater was actually full. People were not just going to go see that film, but they were also going to go see other films such as Mission Impossible, I think it was Dead Reckoning, that's what it is. They've made so many of them that it's really kind of hard to keep up. And, of course, there is also the film Barbie, which many people are saying is extremely woke. And you got some people saying that it's actually designed to make fun of the woke. But don't worry, we'll talk about Warner Brothers a little bit in this video, too, because they, too, are also suffering. Here's the real truth. When Disney was coming out of its bankruptcy and was making a lot of money, they decided to go ahead and expand. And what they decided to do was start buying up other products. One of those products, of course, being Lucasfilms. The problem with buying Lucasfilms is that you're not just buying Lucasfilm, you're buying the fan bases, or you're, I wouldn't say buying the fan bases per se, but you're definitely inheriting their fans. A lot of Star Wars fans, and of course, Disney completely screwed that entire thing up. This right here is long before Disney's whole woke push, so definitely they were already going in the wrong direction. As I have said on multiple occasions, Disney has been dead for a long time, but I never really and truly explained how it was that they died. Which, like I said before, is probably going to be a video essay, a pretty long one, detailing every single bit of information that led me to this conclusion a while back. And now that you're seeing that they're selling off television assets, and while many people think that Disney Plus may be gone in a year, you guys kind of get the picture that what they did was they went out of their way to alienate the fan bases of the new things that they were acquiring. 20th Century Fox was acquired 4 years ago. That library is pretty extensive. It's pretty well over-representative. and they found a way to screw that up. I have no idea why the FX or FXX channels even exist anymore on television, because it seems to me that the only thing they run is The Simpsons, which now, of course, is on Disney Plus. And then to go on top of that, they always run Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which they keep making that show. It's not even funny. I mean, I have the same feelings towards that show that I had towards The Big Bang Theory. It's just not a funny product. I mean, sue me if you guys want to get upset about me saying that. I'm sorry. I got to be completely honest with you guys. But then after Lucasfilms and completely ruining Star Wars, they then turn right back around and buy Marvel. Marvel is a company that had already been through bankruptcy before and looked like they were probably going to survive regardless of the circumstances. But what did you do? You ruined that product as well. Fact of the matter is that Disney finds a way to buy these forms of media, these companies, and they turn right back around and screw things up. I mean, look at the films that have came out over the last few years. I mean, this summer right here alone has not been a good year for Disney. And speaking of that film, Sound of Freedom, which I'm going to give you guys a bit of a review of at the very end of the video, and I'm also going to be explaining exactly what happened with this Zulu movie over the weekend, because YouTube had some chicanery after I released it. Don't worry, I'll explain that here in a second. The fact is this right here. Disney did this crap to themselves. Now, some people have argued that the term is not go woke, go broke. It's actually get broke, then go woke, then die afterwards, which could in fact be true. But don't worry, I'm going to be exploring that a little bit more later on this year, especially when we get to that actual essay that I plan on doing at a later date. Right now, for the most part, we're just reacting to the here and now. And politics, obviously, was something that eventually was... I would say that the politics game is not exactly what killed Disney, but I think the politics game is just what kept Disney from being able to come back. You buy these products like Star Wars and Indiana Jones, you completely screw them up. Same thing with Marvel, you completely screw that up. Now you've also got Warner, who's also at the edge of bankruptcy as well, who found a way with the DCEU to produce pure crap after Batman v Superman, and even that right there, to a certain degree, looking back on it, may have been crap itself. I have no idea why I really truly like that film. Maybe it's just my love for Batman is the reason why, but upon further evaluation, they could have definitely done things a lot better. Not to mention the fact that they also released a Batman movie here recently that did not meet the financial needs that they wanted to do. I mean, how the hell do you screw up Batman? Come on, dude. Hollywood as a whole is dying. I mean, it really and truly is. Maybe it's time for smaller budget films to step up. Maybe they'll actually make more money. There's also this thing, and I noticed this last night at the theater with one of the, one of the films that was being previewed was the film about Ricky Hill. It makes me think that maybe people may be yearning for some form of positive entertainment in this very, very dark time that we're living in. I mean, we have a very divided nation, and obviously Disney's practices and their DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and the whole playing into politics and crap has kind of sort of lamented their problems. Disney was a company that could have been saved even with the Star Wars stuff, but as you guys are seeing, they're over here selling off their assets, including television assets, laying off employees, and another one of the companies that they own, ESPN, which by the way is a video that I'll have out tomorrow to go with this one here, is also suffering as well. So what's the verdict on this? Well, when you factor in buying all these products, you obviously end up buying these companies, their products, their libraries, and you end up getting their fan base while at the same time inheriting said companies' problems. After a while, it's going to become your problems. And then when you have writing staffs that quite frankly don't know what the hell they're doing or talking about and have a desire to destroy iconic characters like, say, Luke Skywalker, i.e. Rian Johnson, which I personally think that The Force Awakens should have been the thing that should have told us that the next few films were going to suck, especially given how it was that Solo, a film that in my opinion wasn't that bad, also flopped at the theaters. Makes you wonder, is it really and truly the writing staff, or was it really and truly Disney itself, the company, purchasing all these assets and not actually thinking about the assets that they had or the fan bases? I would say it was actually the company's big wigs purchasing all these products. Fact of the matter is, they should have left Lucasfilm alone. They should have left not just Lucasfilm, but they should have also at the same exact time left Marvel alone. It's also funny that we mentioned Lucasfilms because George Lucas, of course, is a major commie, but yet he got a pretty big chunk of change for his product. It makes you wonder exactly how big a communist these people are, or if they're just not fake virtue signalers. The fact of the matter is, I feel bad for what they did to George Lucas's product, but then again, at the same time, given the man's overall feelings and the fact that he decided to sell that particular product, that there being Lucasfilm, you can't help but wonder if the man did not do it. Another element here that I think is pretty well let's just say pretty obvious. It's the quiet part that nobody wants to say out loud. And check it out. The other day I came across this video from Moist Critical, and he was asking the questions why it is that these movies are flopping. And he basically went through the whole movie theaters are too expensive, even though they're not expensive for that guy. He's got millions and millions and millions of dollars, especially with videos that have got dildos on them. I gotta say it a certain way because of the YouTube algorithm. Obviously, I've got my problems and with some of these guys' takes, especially given the fact that he did not want to mention the fact that a lot of these films nowadays just flat out suck. Look at Disney's last few releases. Indiana Jones 5 flopped. Nobody's got the money to go see a nostalgia piece that, quite frankly, everybody knows is going to suck. Inflation is through the roof. The Fed oftentimes hikes up interest rates while printing less money. They do that to hedge against an eventual crash that I think is about to occur. Hopefully it does not occur, but I'm pretty sure it's going to at the rate that we're spending money. And of course, if you look at the housing crisis in 2006, the banking crisis and the eventual collapse in 2008, we're showing a lot of the same signs. It's probably going to happen here real soon, and it's probably going to be a lot worse. People don't want to spend money on garbage like that. Also, to go on top of this, Mission Impossible's not making the money that they thought it was going to make the first weekend. I mean, Paramount at this point in time is pretty much just the Tom Cruise studio. Let's just go ahead and throw that out there. Disney has nobody else to buy, and they can't spend their way out of this mess, so they're going to have to do some spending cuts. The minute they went political wasn't the actual, I would say it wasn't the actual death, but it was definitely the thing that kept them from being able to come back. You turn out woke crap like Buzz Lightyear, where you take the antagonist, the actual hero of the story, and you break him down to where he thinks he can't do anything. He loses his confidence. You then release The Little Mermaid, the live-action version of it. You race swap the girl, and it looks like a great big giant joke, and people automatically assume that it's trash. Then you get Elemental, a Pixar film that on the surface looks pretty cool, but once again, though, you decide to inject politics into it. Next thing you know, nobody wants to go see it. Let's go back to The Last Jedi. Obviously, a film that was way too campy, destroyed the character of Luke Skywalker, and showed you exactly how bad these people could be. Then you turn right back around and you do Rise of Skywalker, and you decide to bring back Emperor Palpatine, which, once again, was J.J. Abrams or Jar Jar Abrams, whichever one you want to call. That was his way of trying to actually undo Rian Johnson's failure, but ended up looking worse in the process. No wonder this company is looking at possibly losing roughly $1 billion. Look at the bad decisions that they have made, and once again, here we are. Speaking of that Rise of Skywalker, makes you kind of wonder exactly where this whole push to have gay characters in it came from. If I remember correctly, it started with the live-action Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, you guys remember that controversy, how it was, that people were upset or a bit of an uproar because there was gay characters in it, and then they turned right back around and they decided to put this gay kiss scene in Star Wars, which, by the way, was very, very quick, obviously to appease an extremely small group of the population. Very, very bad decision. And you got to ask yourself why it is that Disney is in this situation. Was it the writers who did it, or was it the actual corporate overlords who allowed the writers to be as stupid as they are? I think it's a little bit of both, but I think it's actually the company overlords is the reason why they're in this situation. Factor in the losses when it comes to these films that come out, and you factor in all the politics, you factor in all the other stuff that, quite frankly, Disney's overlords allowed to happen. All the mergers and acquisitions, the companies that were bought and paid for, they kind of inherited these companies' problems. And then to make matters worse, they did rewrites of every single character and, of course, injected their own brand. And now you wonder why it is Disney is in this situation. People aren't going to the theme parks, and people don't want to buy the action figures. You know, there was a little line that the great Vince McMahon said a long time ago. He said, you want to create a child-friendly product so that way kids can watch it. But you got to do it in a way that gets the parent out to actually take the child to go see the event. So when parents take their child to go see a film like, say, Buzz Lightyear, and all of a sudden they see something that, quite frankly, they don't approve of or they don't want their kids exposed to, what the hell do you think is going to happen? They're going to grab their child and they're going to get out of the theater. Or they're going to turn right back around and tell all their friends, don't carry your son to go see this movie. They inject politics in it. You got these two girls kissing, this, that, and the other. And they also completely ruin this guy's character. Films like that there get extremely bad word of mouth, and next thing you know, nobody wants to show up and see the film. Fact of the matter is that you did this crap to yourself. And you got to ask yourself a question. Is it because the films themselves are, I mean, it's like, look, If the movies were good, if they were actually good movies, then I would say that obviously it's a sad thing. However, the thing about that is they're not good movies. They really and truly suck. They are, in fact, actual crap. Which leads me to this next little thing, which is something that I kind of signaled to you guys earlier in the video. And by the way, it's in the thumbnail. My review of a film that was made on a $14 million budget, that was made back in 2017, 2018 time frame. It was in pre-production in 2017. Based on a true story, based on the works of Department of Homeland Security agent Tim Ballard, which, by the way, is a film about child trafficking, and of course it is a film that the media, for whatever reason, has decided to ridicule and call it a QAnon piece, when in reality the film was made before the QAnon thing even became a thing, and is actually based on the true works of an actual Department of Homeland Security agent, whom also was praised by the media for his work. I think it's time to go ahead and review this film. Before I get to this review, a little known thing. Disney actually had an opportunity to distribute this film. $14 million budget, and yet this film has made over $100 million. It's made back almost quadruple its budget, and it's probably going to make more money while it's still out, which, by the way, it's going to be limited. So make sure you guys go watch the movie ASAP, and make sure you guys stick around all the way to the end, because Caviezel shows up about 2 minutes into the credits and actually gives a pretty good speech that I think everybody needs to hear. Child trafficking, sex trafficking, human trafficking as a whole, it's a pretty big deal. It's a very, very big deal. And here we are calling it some QAnon thing, when obviously the film was made long before Q was even a thing. So basically the movie starts with a little girl playing bongo drum down in Honduras. And a lady comes to the door and tries to recruit the little girl for child modeling. She gets a hold of the dad. She basically honeypots him. He carries not only her, but also her brother to the place, and a bunch of kids are in there believing that they're about to audition. I'm pretty sure you guys are probably thinking to yourself, if you haven't seen the film, if you did go and see the film, you might know where this is actually going. Eventually, the father goes back to find out that children are gone. They've taken his kids. They've kidnapped his son and his daughter both. They've basically put them into child slavery. The film then cuts to Jim Caviezel on the stakeout. Of course, he's playing the role of Tim Ballard, the Department of Homeland Security agent. And after the initial bust and sting, he has a conversation with his partner, and his fellow officer asking, he said, "Look, man, do we ever free the children, or do we, do we actually find the kids and free them?" And Caviezel's like, we catch the pedos is what we do. We catch them. Then all of a sudden, it was a realization that, look, we're catching these guys, which, by the way, they do need to be caught, but we're not freeing any children. So Caviezel eventually sets up the guy that they arrested. Apparently, they couldn't actually hold him, but eventually he sets up an actual big-time sting. They eventually find the little girl who, at the beginning of the video, they eventually find her brother, questions him to try to get some information on where the little girl is. And Caviezel then goes down to Colombia, meets up with a fellow agent, who then turns right back around and sets him up with a former Cali cartel member, who also purchases these children too, under the guise of being a trafficker. But the difference is that this guy here actually sets these kids free. He's actually doing a service. He's using his reputation to get a hold of the kids, and people automatically think that the kids are going to be sex trafficked by this guy, but in reality, he sets them free. That's kind of where the sound of freedom comes from. So after that, they eventually work together to set up another sting operation, and the sting operation goes very, very well. They bring back 54, they rescue some 54-odd kids. Except there's a problem. The little girl, the little boy's sister, the girl that's featured at the very beginning of the movie, she still can't be found. Well, they eventually find the girl. They do some interrogations of the traffickers, and they eventually get the location, or they believe location. So Caviezel, Ballard, of course, him and the former Cali cartel member, they disguise themselves as UN medical personnel, and they go into the region to find the little girl. Of course, Caviezel, Ballard, is the only one that can actually go in there, because these people are like revolutionaries. And he's able to rescue the girl, bring her back home, and bring her to her father. That's basically what the movie is about. Now, really quick, I do think it's very funny. Very, very, well, not funny, but definitely very weird for our media. And by the way, this is a recycled clip too.
It specifically is looking at QAnon concepts of these child trafficking rings that are run by the high-level elites, and only people like Tim Ballard and only people like Jim Caviezel, and by extension, only people like the ticket buyer can help bring these trafficking rings down. So there's a very participatory element. You're not just going to see a movie, you're just killing 2 hours on a hot day. You are helping bring down these pedophile rings and save children. Now, it's not true, but it's a very comforting and it's a very warm feel.
To suddenly find a way to crap on this film. Now, I'm not saying it's some great piece. Obviously, I've seen movies that are probably better or whatnot. But the thing about this particular film is this here. It hits you on a certain level. It hits you on a certain level because, number one, it's based on a true story. And number two, well, actually, it's based on true events involving true things that are going on in the world. And the media wants to go out of their way to make fun of it. Yet this particular film has made back so much more money beyond its actual budget and become a bit of a phenomenon that these people have tried everything they can to ridicule, and it quite frankly doesn't work for these people. It's almost like what happened with Jason Aldean the last weekend, how it was that they called the song that he released "Trot in a Small Town" racist, yet if you actually listen to the video, or if you actually see the music video and actually listen to the actual song itself, you will see that there's no racial connotation at all. As a matter of fact, there are several black music content creators out there who have responded to that song, reacted to it, and they've all said the exact same thing, that it's not racist at all. Just so you guys know that this is the main reason why it is that I don't really pay any attention to the mainstream media anymore. For the most part, it's just comical. It's comical to watch these people jump. I mean, I remember when Soleimani got killed, and I remember our media attacking the president for killing a guy who trained terrorists whose sole job was to kill American troops. Fascinating, the mental gymnastics it takes for someone to be able to. Which leads me to this last thing, and of course it is an explanation over this video here. I released a film review on Gear Issue 33 on Saturday. It was a very good video. I mean, I really put a lot of work into it. This is also after I had released it the previous week for YouTube to block it completely, and I had to take it down and get to rework it. Funny thing about the copyright thing is that there's people out there who love to abuse it. So that video, of course, has been taken down. I'm going to be redoing the video again, just not right now. I'll probably just put it in the back of the line or find a way to put it somewhere in the middle because I still have the clips for it. And I still have all the information and even the script. Now, I may have to do a little bit of reworking or a little bit of rewriting on it, but of course, that video will be coming out again soon. So why is that video no longer on YouTube? Well, the people who kept on claiming copyright, which by the way, it went through 7 separate uploads and copyright checks, they suddenly decided not to copyright claim it, so I released it on Saturday evening. It was released. It was out the following day until roughly noon on Sunday, and then somebody decided to put a copyright claim in. The same person who put the copyright claim in 7 previous times found something else to copyright. So I disputed it. And by the way, I gave credit to the content creator who had the clip, okay? Because at the very beginning, I put it exactly, and I even had it in there, credit to this person here. I did everything by the book, and yet they still kept copyright claiming it. YouTube allowed me to trim the segment out. The problem was that when I trimmed the segment out, which was about 39 seconds long, somehow or another the entire video got trimmed for the exception of those 39 seconds. Very weird, very strange. So I decided to take it down. So I just want to go and let you know that that is the reason why that video is no longer up, if you are subscribed to Gear Issue 33. With that right there being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and close this video down. I'm obviously doing this video a lot earlier than normal. It's a very, very slow news cycle, and obviously I'm going through a bit of a transition with the content and the content style. I'm still working on it more and more often. I'm going to try to have that follow-up for the ESPN ordeal out tomorrow, but obviously the videos are going to be much, much more longer and much, much more detailed. If you guys can, please hit that like button. If you feel that I've earned your subscription, please hit the subscribe button. Also hit the notifications bell. Leave a comment in the comment section. I would love to get you guys' thoughts, and I'll see you guys later.